Director of Client Partnerships at Pacific Cascade Legal. And today I'm here with certified divorce financial analyst Stacy Francis to discuss the danger signs of a financially abusive relationship and how to break free and recover financial control of your life. So, Stacy, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. And I just want to say and applaud you for taking on a really important but tough topic.
Yeah, it was, as I'm going through doing an outline, and it's tough stuff. It really is. Which leads me kind of into, before we start, I'm going to ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself and also what a certified divorce financial analyst is.
Of course, of course. So I am no stranger to financial abuse. I watched my grandmother in an abusive marriage growing up, both physically as well as financially. And it was a real wake up call for me as a young little girl to learn how important money is for anyone, but especially for women, and how money can actually be used as a tool, as a weapon to control people. And that's actually what happened for her. I became a certified divorce financial analyst, and while she never actually divorced my grandfather, I became absolutely committed to helping women who were able to do that, that had the support to be able to break free so that they could move towards a place of financial empowerment and security, because that is the primary reason that women stay, is that again, if you have financial abuse, you don't have access to the finances, and so it becomes even much harder to stay. So that is a big part of my life, and the practice that I have at Francis Financial is working with women thinking about or going through divorce. Not all of them are financial abuse survivors, but many are. And most importantly, they want to make sure that they and their children are going to be financially safe and sound.
Then this is a perfect to talk about. This is one that we've not really been able to do because it is sort of underappreciated what it really is, it feels
Mhm.
like. And so I'm going to ask a kind of the obvious first question. Kind of what is financial abuse?
Yeah.
And
Well,
how does that get acknowledged?
yeah, Steve, I mean, you really hit it on the head that financial abuse is a type of abuse that goes really unrecognized, and often it's not spoken about. It's starting to be more so, but it's present in relationships where there is a person who's trying to control the other person. Their goal is to manipulate, intimidate, threaten the victim in order to entrap them in that relationship. And so it most often occurs in situations where there is also physical abuse or emotional abuse. In fact, it presents itself in 98% of domestic violence, domestic violence cases. Um, and what we often find is that financial abuse and that controlling, it's the gateway to other types of abuse.
Yeah.
So many women, it started with, you know, not having access to the checkbook. And then a good number of those cases actually go into physical abuse. So,
Yeah.
knowing the signs is really important.
So let's just talk about a couple examples of financial abuse that goes on.
Yep. Yeah, they're definitely not having access to accounts, not having access to money, um, having a budget that's being imposed upon them that is so restrictive that it's not livable. The person who is the abuser wants that because then the victim is having to constantly ask them for money, being at the checkout and not sure if you have enough money for the groceries that you have, and having to show that almost subservient role to that person who again is pulling the strings of the finances. We also can see it not allowing the person to work, or if they are working, sabotaging them by showing up at work. One of our clients, her husband took away the keys and said, you have to walk to work. So if you really want your own money, you figure out how to get to work. These are some of the signs that you can see. We even will see loans being taken out in the survivor's name without them knowing, by essentially, forging their name, and really taking their credit and taking out credit cards in their name, loans in their name, and then just devastating their credit score, for further, making them dependent on the abuser.
Wow. It feels so much like the exact same motives inside a person who is a physical abuser. It's that same power,
Yeah.
anger dichotomy.
Yeah, and often money can be used then as another weapon. We think of abuse as you're hitting someone as your weapon. Here we're using money as your weapon, which can be just as painful. And
Yeah.
I have clients where we're going through the divorce process, and he's bullying her, saying that I made all this money, you did not. So you get nothing from the divorce. And that's where having a fantastic lawyer that understands the laws of their state and also understands abusive relationships, that you work with that person, because that is not the case. But it's very hard to stand up to your abuser when they are threatening that they're going to cut you off, or that they'll say untrue negative things about your children. Um, Going through that can be just
Yeah.
very difficult.
So you are, it's kind of an aside here. You are someone who can step in with people at a very early part of this process. It's not as if it's okay, now the divorce is over, now let me try to clean up the mess kind of thing.
Yeah, so you are right, Steve. So we work quite uniquely in a way where we will actually work with a woman, and I say a woman because almost all of our clients are women, through the divorce process. And we charge hourly. We actually will testify in court if needed as an expert witness. And then we also work with our clients ongoing in a more typical way you would expect as a financial advisor, as a percentage of the assets that we're managing for her. Um, Not everybody has significant financial means. And Francis Financial, most of the women we work with, they have significant means. They're walking away from that marriage with a portfolio of $2 million or more. And that's why I really want to make sure everybody knows about Savvy Ladies as that resource, because Savvy Ladies works with all women, whether you have a dollar in your pocket or you do not. And we have over 200 financial experts. About 40 of them are certified divorce financial analysts that you can work free of charge through our helpline. And you can go to www.savvyladies.org to get that support and to be able to reach out to someone. And they actually have been specially trained in the area of financial abuse as well, because so many of our clients that reach out to Savvy Ladies face that.
So if someone comes into you and they start talking, and they say, I don't think I'm the victim of financial abuse. I don't know.
Yeah.
What should I look for? What are those sort of danger signs that make me realize, oh, maybe I am being financially abused?
Yeah, there's a lot of questions. Are you having to ask for money from your spouse to pay everyday bills? Are they monitoring their spending? One of our clients, every time she had an expense on the credit card, he got a notification because he set it up, and then immediately would be asking her what she's doing. Are they making investments without consulting you? Are they discouraging you from furthering your career, or actually going back into the job market? Are they forbidding you from working, or preventing you having access to checking accounts, savings accounts, retirement accounts? Are they using your credit, and using your credit to be able to open different credit lines in your name, maybe even jointly with you. Are you signing your tax return, or again, are they signing it for you? So, these are all things, and typically, Steve, financial abuse is over time. It doesn't typically happen all of a sudden. The abuser starts to do this very slowly, and often they will tell the person, you know what, I'll pay the bills. I know how busy you are. I know how stressed out it makes you, which sounds okay, right? But
Yeah.
that's then can be in certain relationships then a step that starts this process that leaves her completely outside of any knowledge or access to the finances.
It's a weird thing to say, but it's almost like they're training you to be a victim. Like you
They
say, you
are,
start
and
slowly.
can be, you're not good with money, right? You're not good with this stuff, right? Leave it to me. Hearing that you're bad with money. That's why I have you on a strict budget. Um, and eventually over time, we can start to believe that.
Yeah.
We can start to believe that. And it's a very hard to remove yourself from that situation. And I will tell you the thing too, Steve, is we don't talk about this. It's not something that comes up when, women are going out for cocktails at night. In fact, she's probably not allowed to go out for cocktails at night anyway. Um, and so it's very hard to realize this is you until you'll read an article or listen to a Facebook Live like this, where you realize, oh my gosh, this is me.
That just made me think of something. So I wasn't going to ask this question because I didn't even think of it until just now. But can it be prevented? Is there a preventative thing that they could do it? Let's say, they come to you before and it's like, I don't want to become this person. How can I prevent it? Can it start almost before it starts?
So abuser is an abuser, and there definitely are signs during the dating and the relationship. But what I tell all women, whether you're in a difficult relationship like this, or a healthy, happy relationship with your partner, always stay involved with the finances.
Yeah.
And I say that also for not only for you, but also for your spouse. And I know this because I've talked to so many people who are the breadwinners for their family, 100% solely responsible for the finances. And it's a big job, and it can be a stressful job. And I know the way that my husband and I work is that we co-manage the finances, and we're always going back and forth of what are we doing with this? What are we doing with that? We do date nights every single month. On those financial date nights, we're looking at the upcoming expenses. So right now, the kids' tuition bill was one of the things we were talking about in our last piece of like, okay, this is it's due on this date. From which account should it come from? And then we also decided that instead of having a huge vacation this summer, that we were going to pull it back, visit our family, and we were going to put a little bit more money in our emergency fund, just because both we decided would make us feel a little bit more confident and secure with all the things that are going around in the world, and job loss and things like that. And so staying involved is the best thing you can do for yourself. It's also the best thing you can do for a healthy relationship with your partner.
And that's something a lot of people wouldn't have thought of, or I wouldn't have thought
Right.
of. I'm not just doing it for me, I'm doing it for you as well. So I mean, that's kind of cool. But let's say you are now in a bad situation. There
Yep.
is financial abuse. I know one thing you talk about is it's really hard to break free from being that person, the victim.
It is very hard. And the women who have been able to free themselves have been able to put a team around them, get the support that they need, and start to put money away. And some of the creative ways that our clients have found to be able to scroll money to the side so that they can hire a lawyer, so that they can get the right support, and is really astounding. There are also wonderful organizations that you can reach out to, such as Sanctuary for Families, helping domestic violence victims, looking at your local shelter for women who are victims of domestic violence, and just going to the abuse helpline. And my hope is, maybe as a resource, all of you listening can actually go to that website. It may not be for you, but for other people in your life, it's very important, because I have to tell you that financial abuse can become deadly. A dear friend of mine, she actually was the breadwinner, but yet she was a survivor of financial abuse because her husband would have the paycheck that was deposited into their joint account immediately transferred to his account only. And they came to a climax where the two of them were fighting, and it became physical. She woke up, her children were crying above her, and the police were there, and she had been strangled and lost consciousness. So getting the help that you need and getting a plan in action and the support is really important, because the most dangerous time for a woman is right before she leaves or right after. And so making sure that you're able to do so in a way that is safe.
How can how can she then start? I guess they wanted, I think you'd say get your financial house in order. I mean, start to
Yeah.
look. What would you advise someone to start doing just right now? Start doing this, and that.
Yeah. Great question. Um, I'm going to share stories from
That's
women
cool. I
and all
love
the
that.
things they've done. Husband comes home, he passes out drunk as he normally does on Saturday night. She takes his phone, uses his face for ID to go through to start to see what financial accounts they have, and what credit cards he has in his wallet. Um, Another woman, was tracking all the bills that were coming in, and she knew she wasn't allowed to open them, but writing all the financial institutions that they were coming from, whether it looked like it was a credit card, a checking account, a savings account, a brokerage account. She did the same thing for all the insurances and debt. Another woman had a certain amount of money for groceries every single week, and she would put a little bit to the side, $20 a month, where she would start to put that away. Another woman that we worked with was just honest and open with her family to explain her situation, and they gave her over $10,000 to, number one, be able to leave, and number two, to be able to get the counsel and the legal representation that she needed for her and her children. Um, Another woman, went to her local shelter, domestic violence shelter, to stay and live there and make sure that she had a safe place to be. So these are, many different things that can happen. But I do have to say that financial abuse can also happen in high net worth situations. We tend to think as a myth, Steve, that it's the low income couple, and that is not always the case. And so, um, you know, knowing that she most likely has the same issues and lack of access to money as that woman who maybe the family household income is $40,000 a year. Those same things that our clients have done. We see that across all different income spectrums, from the women who use Savvy Ladies that are really truly women in need, to the women who are quite affluent through Francis Financial. Financial abuse does not discriminate according to color of your skin, according to religion, or according to your wealth. It is across all of those socioeconomic groups.
Um, it kind of made me think of, well, the internet. And I am certainly not technologically savvy enough to find out if somebody is doing something, but I know a lot of people are. And so I'm kind of wondering is if someone says, well, I'm going to go on the internet and I'm going to do all these things to try to find out, they should be kind of careful, shouldn't they?
Um, well, you can find out. So if you go to the National Domestic Violence Hotline, if I'm correct on that, there's a way that you can actually not have it be in your search history.
Oh,
Or maybe you go to the library and
yeah.
you look up resources via the library versus your phone or your local home computer. But the other thing you can do is you can call from a friend's phone, and it's just so all of you, if you do have a pen, it's 800-799-7233. Again, 800-799-7233. That is the National Domestic Violence Helpline, and they have fantastic resources for you, and any language that you need to speak to a representative in, they also have available.
I know you talk a lot about team, and you talked about a little bit earlier, putting together a team that maybe that you need to take control of your life. It's not just, first of all, you alone, or maybe not even just you and the person. There's a team around there, professionals that you can put together that can help, isn't there?
There is, and the people I think of as most important on that team is definitely your lawyer, your financial professional, and the piece that very few people talk about is your mental health support, not only for yourself, but also for your children. Um, my father is a survivor of a abusive father. He grew up in that household with my grandmother, and if there is physical abuse of the spouse, typically it is also they target their children, and he has suffered in ways that I can never imagine someone having to suffer, of having to live through that, not only himself be physically harmed, but also seeing, the woman he loved most growing up, his mother. And so having support from a mental health perspective for yourself as well as for your children is really key. And what's wonderful about the domestic violence helpline, they can find these resources for you, both in your town, whether it's full pay, whether it's low pay, whether it's no pay. There's a lot of resources for you.
The attorney and the therapist, the counselor, there's divorce coaches who do great jobs, and obviously you, the financial planner, especially that gets divorces and understands the problems with them, are all wonderful. Do they ever work together? And I guess by that, I mean, I'm not necessarily that one hires the other or something like that, but as much as kind of connected, knowing what the other person is doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I will tell you, I do. Maybe not everyone does, but the best thing you can have is your financial professional talking with your attorney, right? Your matrimonial attorney, and having the divorce coach or therapist looped in, of better understanding where she's at, the support she needs, the things that she's worried about, and how we can address them. So I find that it's almost like three legs on a stool, and each one of them has a very important role, and that stool would not stand without one of them, right? It would tip over
Yeah.
if it was just two. So yes, having those professionals work together, at least my approach is, the more that we can collaborate, the better job we're going to do for her, and actually the stronger her representation and the better outcome she's going to have.
Yeah, that makes sense because as attorneys, we can go and get temporary orders and get temporary support orders or money freeze or a lot of different kinds of orders, but that doesn't mean we have all the financial info. And that's where you
Yep.
come in. I mean, it's, we can get one, but how much should we be getting? I mean, what is that financial need? And that's where you can step in.
Yeah. And for us, what we'll do is we can actually model out what that financial need looks like. And if she is not the breadwinner, or he, because this happens for both men and women, but we can model out, what does child support need to be? What does spousal support, in some states will call it alimony, what does that need to be based on their lifestyle and based on their expenses, not only today, but in the future as the children grow. What I have found about kids personally is that when you first have them, you think they're expensive, but then when they become teenagers, less than you really realize they're expensive. So, really thinking about that in our planning is important and key, because there are a lot of expenses that a 2-year-old doesn't have, but a 16-year-old does, when it comes to orthodontia, learning to drive, just all those things. Making sure that we're thinking about that and we're thinking about the future, so that the negotiation and the settlement agreement that you're drafting can really cover those future situations, so that they don't have to come back to court. They don't have to come back because of disagreements in the future.
That is such great advice. I've done some Facebook Lives, which are basically, I wish they'd have come to me with their divorce settlement before they signed it. And that kind of a thing. I mean, if you can get a hold of it and talk through it, maybe the husband is saying, here, you get that property. You're going to take that property and I'll take this. And then they're the same. And you can look at it and go, well, stop. Maybe they're not exactly the same.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's very rare that apples are apples. It's usually, apples and bananas. And
Yep.
people will look at an account that has, let's say, $100,000 in it, that's a 401k retirement account. And then they'll look at another account that is a checking account that's 100,000. And he says, you know what? You're behind in retirement. So you take the retirement account and I'll take the checking account. But she may not realize, or she may, or her, the person advising her may not realize that every dollar she takes out, 40 cents goes to the government through federal, state, local, Social Security, and Medicare. So that's really $60,000 in that retirement account. And he's walking away with a tax-free checking account of $100,000 that he can use whatever he wants to use it for and be footloose and fancy free. I've seen some really naughty things happen. And it's why having the proper legal representation, and if you have a complex divorce, a certified divorce financial analyst, because once you sign that agreement, you signed it.
Yeah, that's
right?
exactly right.
Yeah.
Yep. And especially when it comes to money and property issues, they're not things you can go back and change very easily.
Exactly, Steve. You can go and petition child support, petition spousal support or alimony, but once you sign that settlement agreement for equitable distribution, unless there has been gross misrepresentation or on purpose hidden assets, as you know, Steve, it's very hard to reopen that case, to start that
exactly right.
negotiation again.
Wow, we just blew through 30 minutes. And
I know,
this
and
really great.
I have to say, I know that this is such a difficult topic, but I really enjoyed talking about this. And Steve, I also have to say, the questions you asked were very insightful, because sometimes people will blame the survivor of, why didn't she leave? Why didn't she see the signs? And we need to, as a society, realize that this is not her fault.
Yeah.
This is not, if it is the victim is a male, and we have a client who was a victim of financial abuse, a lovely gentleman, and his wife was the abuser, and it was not his fault either. It was not, and us learning how to help recognize this whether it's on our own situation or our loved ones' situations or friends, and then knowing how to step in and support and offer resources is what I'm so happy about this Facebook Live for, because it's going to be giving tools to people to make sure that even those that maybe can't speak up right now, others speak up for them and help them.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. And before we do leave, would you like to give, is there any info you can give in terms of how to contact you?
Exactly. So if you are looking for ongoing wealth management and financial planning, and you have a lot of complex assets or significant assets of $2 million or more, Francis Financial is the right fit for you. And we're the top certified divorce financial analyst firm pretty much in the country. But if that's not you, or you're just not ready to engage a financial advisor, but need questions answered, then go to savvyladies.org, www.savvyladies.org, and you'll see there are 200 different financial literacy courses that you can take. It's phenomenal. There's a huge section on our website also about divorce and finance. And most importantly, you'll see that there is a helpline that you can work one-on-one with a certified divorce financial analyst to answer your questions. And what's even more powerful is that we just launched an app. So you can go on your phone now, download the app from the App Store, savvyladies.org, and you can get connected to a financial expert in 5 minutes right
Oh my
on your
God,
phone. So
that's
it's
cool.
pretty cool, Steve. I couldn't be happier and I couldn't be more proud. And I'm just, again, want to say truly from the bottom of my heart, thank you for talking about this topic and really unearthing something that's so important.
Oh, well, I love this kind of stuff to talk about. And any other time you want to come on and talk about something, I'm good to go with
I would
this.
love that, Steve. I love what you're doing.
Oh, good. I thank you. And I better get off before I get yelled at. It's time to go, but thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
And everyone else, thank you for joining us. If anyone has any further questions on today's topic, you can post it here. We can get you connected with Stacy. So until next time, stay safe, stay happy.